In the last half hour, we were asking what's going on in Florida, where they're purging people from the election rolls, from the voting rolls. Well, comparably, what's going on in Michigan, where if you vote and you vote somebody into office, the governor comes along and says, nah, you can't do that. And then when people say, hey, let's get the governor out of here, let's sign this petition, the governor says, oh, you used the wrong typeface, the wrong font. It's not right. We're going to ignore your petitions. Tony Trupiano is with us. He's the host of The Tony Show. The website, thetonyshow.org. The actual name of the show on WDTW, which is carrying us right this minute, is First Shift with Tony Trupiano. Tony, welcome back to the program.
It's a pleasure to be with you, the king of progressive talk.
Yeah, right. It is always great to have you on, my friend and brother and fellow Michigander, or Michiganian, I guess, if you're younger. What's the deal here? This whole font thing originally seemed to me like absurd, that the court would knock it down immediately. I mean, typesetters arguing?
Well, let me explain that we are in the process of waiting, if you can believe this, for the appeals court to decide whether 14-point is 14-point or whether it's really just 14-point. And if it sounds like I'm talking in circles, welcome to my world, Tom.
Yeah, and just for people who don't know what we're talking about, types is measured in points, and a 14-point type is, in the neighborhood of a quarter-inch high. It's typically in a book, or in a newspaper, the type is somewhere between 8, 10, or 12, larger type, 12 points. 14 type would be the kind of type that you see as subheads, or, the slightly larger type. It's not quite big enough to be a headline. That would be like 16 or 18 or 20 point type. So there we are. Tony.
Well, we have a state board of canvassers. There are 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans that sit on this board. There was a question literally 40 minutes before this issue was to be put to bed. We would see on the ballot come November. Basically, the question is Public Act 4, which is our emergency manager law, which takes away our democratic rights from duly elected members of our communities, at the behest of the governor, who really doesn't need anybody's permission to do this under this new law, again, titled Public Act 4. Enough signatures were submitted. There were enough signatures confirmed that they were legitimate. So that
what were the thresholds, and what was the number?
They needed to get 160,000 signatures. They had 220,000. Mm-hmm. So they had more than enough signatures. And so it was really just a matter of really just saying, okay, yeah, the signatures are good. Well, again, 40 minutes before this was to happen, a group comes along and says, we are now going to challenge the size of the 14-point size of the font, which by state election law it has to be. Here's the problem. One of the people that sits on the State Board of Canvassers happens to share the same address with the quote-unquote group that was challenging the font size.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, that's problematic. So you would think that this person, although he was asked publicly by me and many others to recuse himself, refused to do so.
What's his name?
I don't remember his name, Tom, off the top of my head.
That's fine, no problem.
Anyway, this isn't a difficult, this isn't even a long story. They decide along party lines, 2-2, to the 2 Democrats voting to approve, the 2 Republicans voting not to approve. Now it ends up with the appeals court. Well, so now it's at the appeals court. The appeals court, by law, gets to decide the issue. If they say that it's not 14-point font, then it's dead. 220,000 signatures are thrown away, waste of time, democracy is aborted.
Amazing.
If the appeals court decides that they are going to let it stand, then things are okay. Here's part of the challenge. The appeals court panel, there were 3 that were randomly chose, happened to be the 3 most conservative members of the Michigan Court of Appeals.
Oh, interesting. Randomly chose?
Quote-unquote randomly.
Who made the choice?
Well, that's a great question. Now, we're going to assume, because they don't do these things in public, that whoever in the appeals process makes that decision. I don't know if they throw names in a hat. Nobody knows, because they don't make that stuff public.
This is state court?
State court.
Yeah, so the State Court of Appeals. do you know anything about this group that did the challenge that lives at the same address as one of
they only existed to challenge these petitions. They were born, they did their thing, and they have died. They no longer exist. They were just there to challenge the petition, the font size, which you got to wonder at what level who said to them, hey, listen, you got a long shot, but let's throw it out there. It's not 14-point font. Now, by the way, there's testimony. There has been expert testimony. There have been testimony by graphic artists who have said, yes, this is legitimately 14-point font. Tom, you're going to be shocked to hear that not only did the State Board of Canvassers not hear that testimony, neither did the Court of Appeals. Explain how that happens, because I can't figure that one out.
Why did they not hear the testimony of typographic experts who said that it was 14-point? And I'm assuming by the typeface you're talking about the writing at the top of the petition that defines what it is, or something like that.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So it's got to be big enough for the average person to read, even if they have a little hard time reading. Is right. What 14-point would do.
Certainly, it certainly qualified by ever. In fact, I was at a rally at the state capitol just a couple weeks ago. In fact, you had me on your show to talk about that rally. And one of those experts approached me and said, listen, I was one of the people that was there to testify, and they would not listen to my testimony. He actually handed me a document that showed, in fact, he was wearing a tie that actually had a little measuring device on it that showed different size fonts. Trust me, this guy's the real deal.
Yeah, a point rule. Yeah, I used to own an ad agency. I was never a typesetter, but I had high typesetters working for me. In fact, back in the early days, we used to use linotype machines. I mean, you'd have to go out and get typeset, and right. I'm quite familiar with this, and which raises even a larger question, Tony Trupiano, and that is, why would anybody care if the point of 14-point type, if the reason that was originally written into law was to make sure that it's bigger than the type in a newspaper, not so big that you can't fit enough information on, but big enough that somebody who usually would have to read, wear reading glasses or something, if they were just, casually approached in a shopping center, wouldn't have to whip out their reading glasses. They could read it, they could figure out what it said, and they could decide whether or not to sign it. In other words, legibility, right? That's the goal.
Right.
Wouldn't it make sense that the two Republicans on the board of what's the board called? The Board of
Canvassers.
Board of Canvassers. That the two Republicans on the Board of Canvassers would say, well, the reason the law says 14-point is because it wants to, if it's legible and it looks either legible or illegible to us, and they would make their argument based on that, because there are 14-point type fonts that are actually hard to read. The really highly stylized ones, the ones that look like ransom note lettering. I mean, you could do 14-point in a way that's hard to read. But if legibility is the issue, then why don't they litigate it on that?
Well, yes, all 14-point fonts are not created equal. We can all agree on that. Here's the issue. There actually is legal precedence to the question of legibility. So you ask it an incredibly important question, which has been answered by lower courts. Will this appeals court honor those lower court rulings? And that is the question at hand. And, Tom, we may get an answer on this any day now. Obviously, the folks that were in the room the day that the State Board of Canvassers denied this, and most of those people, of course, were in downtown Detroit when the appeals court convened and listened to arguments, obviously not fully, because I just told you they wouldn't hear testimony as to experts, typographical experts. But with all that being said, these are people that care deeply about democracy. These are people that are just saying, all we're asking is for the spirit of what we originally were looking to do was just place this on the ballot and let democracy do its job. If people want the law, then they vote for it. If they don't want the law, they vote against it. Right. That's all we're saying, Tom. That's it.
Well, clearly that's what the Republicans don't want. And if my recollection of measuring type sizes is correct, and I may be wrong on this, but my recollection is that the leading is included in the type size. Now, the leading is the space underneath the type that separates the top line from the bottom line. And it's called leading because it used to be little strips of lead. And so if you've got a point of leading underneath, then if you put a point ruler down, if I'm using the right word, it might look like the type is only 13 points high, but it's got a point of lettering underneath it, and that's 14-point type. If my but again, this shouldn't be the point. Legibility should be the point.
Correct. You are correct on all accounts, and legibility was the point. It was the issue. It was satisfied by the way, the folks that had the petitions printed went to a printer that was practiced at this. They didn't go to some novice printer, Thom Hartmann.
Right.
They went to somebody. And by the way, that printer also has to sign an affidavit against the penalty of perjury. That's right. It's perjury if you deliberately print petitions that do not meet state standards. So
amazing.
Everything was set and ready to go.
Real quick question, Tony. Are the appeals court judges appointed or elected?
Appointed.
Appointed. By the governor?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Tony Trupiano, thetonyshow.org. First Shift with Tony Trupiano.